strength and song all the day long. Yah is my strength and song all the day long. Let me hear you say, Yah is my strength and song all the day long. Yah is my strength and song all the day long. I will sing of His praise. I will boast of His name. I will sing of His praise. I will boast of His name. I will sing of His praise. I will boast of His name. I will sing of His praise. I will boast of His name.
I see what.
Yah is my strength and song all the day long. Yah is my strength
Perfect.
and song
Yeah. There you go.
all the day long. Will you help me say, Yah is my strength and song all the day long. Yah is my strength and song all the day long. I will sing of His praise. I will
Shalom, shalom, Alakim. Peace be on you. Yisrael, Yehonathan, we with you here humbly so on what they call the 15th of April, 2023. That song is from Patrice Pace. Song called Yah, given to me by her handle is Positive Reinforcement. So subscribe and support and like Positive Reinforcement. I just love the title alone. So that's a positive system with some positive downloads on there. She has like beauty products, hair products, oil, and she does other stuff. You're not gonna you'll be positively reinforced after you finish watching any of her downloads. So I appreciate her sending me that song. Ministering Women, Nashim Sharote. Ministering Women in Ibrit, that is Nashim Sharote. It means ministering women. I tell you, ladies, this is not Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, or it's not, and it may not be your birthday or your anniversary. But all you women are going to really feel empowered today. We are now resuming to our Bemilotah series, which means in His own words. This is Yahweh Shua, who is Moshe 2.0. We did Pesach the last 2 weeks, and I hope you got some learning and some understanding of getting the deeper meaning of it, Passover and unleavened bread, and getting the spiritual understanding of it, of the type and anti-type symbols thereof. The leaven is something we need to get rid of in ourselves. That'll mean you cannot eat unleavened bread. And the Pesach is not a day. Passover is Yahweh Shua. He is the Pesach. So we want to understand these things, understand the deeper meaning of these things. We want to realize that we are to love Yahweh with all heart, might, and soul, not with 666 commandments. And we talked about a little known fact about what did Mary Magdalene see Yahweh Shua doing when He came out at the resurrection, when she thought He was the gardener. Well, we shared that, she thought that because He was offering Himself up as the wave offering and the heave offering. He was the first of the first fruits, and that was His priestly duty. So He had to do that, and that happens at that time. He was offering Himself up as a wave sheaf offering. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But in this series, I just want to remind everybody, right now we are well into now the second year of Yahweh Shua's ministry now, which began at what you call the Sermon on the Mount. Which began with the Beatitudes, how your attitudes ought to be. That began the second year of His ministry, where He is now openly professing Himself as the Messiah, although he's still not really openly saying that. He's calling Himself the Son of Man. The first year it was clandestine operation, which was given up by some people, but the second year He is fully out. And I gave the example when I began this series months ago of how I hope you really fall in love with this man for what he's doing. I started off saying, well, can you imagine that if you saw an ant colony getting ready to be paved over and destroyed because a parking lot was being put over the park? There's no way you can save the ants. They can't. No matter what you say to them, you can't explain it to them for them to understand that, hey, this beautiful park that you've been in for all your generations, now there's a Walmart going up and they're getting ready to pave you over. There's a sign right there and tape all around, and you got 3 months. You cannot, and it's not a fault or shortcoming on your part. There's not a fault or shortcoming on the ant colony's fault. The problem is nature. The man's nature and the ant's nature are different. It's two different kind of natures. So it doesn't matter what you do, you cannot communicate to them that y'all are about to die. Now there is a way of all of you being saved, because right across the park, that is still going to be a park, and you can take the queen and you guys can go, it's like 50 meters or 100 meters over, and go that way, and everyone will be, the whole ant world colony will be saved. And it can't be, the only way that information can be shared in the world, the ant world saved, is if you became an ant. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that deep? Yahweh Shua could not be on the throne communicating to me, telling me how I need to do thus and such and get better. I'm not going to be able to understand that. I can't get that. I can't get that. It doesn't matter. Only reason why I understand this word today is because he came down from the throne, came out of the womb of a virgin woman, because Ruach HaKodesh overshadowed Miriam, and he came out of the womb just like me. He had blood in him just like me. He ate, pooped, peed, cried, laughed, worked. He had anxieties. He had, he was attacked. He was tempted. I couldn't think of the word. Tempted. Everything just like me. So now, even though he's back up there, he can relate to me. I can understand him. He understands me and all that. And so this is what we're doing here. This B'Melotah series. Now he is here on the earth in fully into the second year of his ministry. He is Moshe 2.0. He is laying it down how we need to receive it. Now about these types and antitypes. Now we talked about, the Pesach is a type of Yahweh Shua. It's just like when you're walking down the street. Your shadow is in front of you, and the shadow is shaped like you. It ain't shaped like an elephant. An elephant's shadow is different than a giraffe's shadow. A giraffe's shadow is different than a hippopotamus' shadow. Hippopotamus' shadow is different than a monkey's shadow. Okay? A tree's shadow is different than a car's shadow. Whenever you see a shadow of something, rest assured it's going to be similar to what the actual substance is that's coming. And also rest assured that the substance is very nearby. That's why you see in the shadow. You see a gorilla's shadow, you better don't think you're safe. You see in his shadow. Yeah, gorilla is right there, though. The lion is right there, close to his shadow. So, type means a shadow of the antitype. Yahweh Shua is antitype. Everything what you call the Old Testament is a type. And it all points to Yahweh Shua. We went through all of that. Been going through that almost every week. The scriptures on that. Yahweh Shua says, search the scriptures, search the Torah. It all speaks of me. I am the antitype. I am here. So we see that these things are not actually him. They are a shadow of him. When he is here, we need to lean on. Whenever you cannot connect boys and girls, or so I say Hebrews and Shebrews, let me say it that way. Sadiq, saints, whenever you're doing your studying and your research, whenever you don't understand something in the so-called Old Testament, how it connects directly to Yahweh Shua, who is the way, the truth, and the light, that's your learning gap. That's a learning curve for you. If you cannot read something from the Old Testament and directly connect it to him, that's a learning gap for you. So you got a learning gap there. Because whatever you don't understand, trust me, it's him in the crux of it. So continue your praying and your fasting. So we see that the ruddy heifer is an antitype of Yahweh Shua who came and healed everybody. That's what the ruddy heifer's ashes was for under Moshe. The goat, well, Not once, not twice, but I think 3 times they tried to throw Yahweh Shua over the cliff as the scapegoat. The goat, it doesn't mean greatest of all time. Yes, although he is the greatest of all time, but the goat is a type of Yahweh Shua. The turtle doves, the unleavened bread, the rebellious son, the adulterous bride, the groom, the rock, the water, the blood, the light, the oil, the fragrance, on and on and on and on. Every one of these things are a type of Yahweh Shua. Anything you want to pull up in as a doctrine, as a study, they all point to him. I'm trying to emphasize this because I'm going to just really touch you ladies' hearts today with 3 examples of female examples who are types of Yahweh Shua, who's the antitype. Hey, do not fall off the sofa or whatever you're looking at, sitting on. Listen, there has to be where did the woman come from? Where did she come from? Did she come from Hasatan, the accuser? Did someone else give Yahweh counsel on how to make the woman? So it's not heretic teaching to say that you can use a woman can be a type of Yahweh Shua. We're talking about a type. It's not literally him. He is the antitype. And these 3 things, and we already spoke about 2 of them, but there's a brand new one I just pulled up yesterday morning. Another brand new one. So I'm just going to give 3 examples of the woman as being the type of Yahweh Shua, who is the antitype. Everything in the Old Testament points to him. We're now in the soul. This is the new era. This is the final era, and we ought to know him by now. Reason why I tell you, my brother Chris was on point last week. I messed him up. I didn't do one of the timestamps, and he was right. It was number 4. We're going to start off with that right now. 2 Corinthians 2:14-16.
Now thanks be to God, who always leads us in triumph in Christ, and through us diffuses the fragrance of his knowledge in every place. For we are to God the fragrance of Christ, among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To the one we are the aroma of death, leading to death, and to the other the aroma of life, leading to life. And who is sufficient for these things?
Wow. So, and I wanted to play that because we all know that we're supposed to be salt and light to the world. But this is what I like. Shaul was saying we also are the fragrance. We are the fragrance to the world. He was looking for Titus. The narrative is this. He was looking for Titus. So what he's saying is he eventually found Titus. He was like, I smelt you. I smelt you, Titus. I smelled you. Now, I'm telling you, brothers, I ain't going to never tell. I don't care if Chris got some hot karate on or Menin or Old Spice. I don't care how. I ain't going to come tell him, bro, you smell good, man. I ain't going to say it. Now, I can tell him, you look good. I like your Jordans and all that kind of. But brothers don't tell them, bro, man, you smell good. We just don't do that. That's an intimate thing. I like the way my wife smells. But Shaul was like, I smelled you, Titus. We are, so not only are we salt to the world and light to the world, but we also are the fragrance to the world. It's right here. That's why I wanted to get that in today, because I missed it last week. And this is what Yahweh Shua did. He is the first of the first fruits. He offered himself as a wave offering and the heave offering, and Yahweh accepted his sacrifice after he resurrected, because he indeed was perfect, innocent. He did nothing wrong, and his odor went up, and Yahweh accepted his fragrance. Now, here is something that I'm sure you may not have considered. In the Garden of Eden, Mother Hawa and her husband both sinned with 4 of their 5 senses. They looked, they touched, they tasted, and they heard. Listen to the serpent. The only sense that was not used, did not get along in that sinning stuff, was a sense of smell. The sense of smell is the only sense that Yahweh gave us that did not join in with everybody else in sinning against Yahweh. There's no smelling going on in there. That she used all her other senses, and so did Adam, to sin against Yahweh, except the sense of smell. It's a very This is a very spiritual thing here. The sense of smell. You don't go sniffing up on anybody. You don't go sniffing up on anybody. So Yahweh accepted his son as that wave of that smell offering. And we today are that smell. We are. Now, the record says we smell like death to those who love the world, because we know the end of their world is the beginning of ours. But to those who receive Yahweh HaMashiach, who is the first of the first fruits, we are the fragrance of life. Man, that's beautiful. Now, talking about these new wineskins, old wineskins. Cue up number 2, my man.
Men and brethren, this scripture had to be fulfilled, which the Holy Spirit spoke before by the mouth of David concerning Judas, who became a guide to those who arrested Jesus, for he was numbered with us and obtained a part in this ministry.
Now this man purchased a field with the wages of iniquity, and falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his entrails gushed out. And it became known to all those dwelling in Jerusalem, so that field is called in their own language a Keldama.
I want to bring it up again. That's in Acts 1:16 through 18, and that's so-called Peter talking about Yehuda, who betrayed Yahweh Shua and hung himself. He had to stay up there during the entire feast day because no one could touch him because they would be unclean. And his odor filed. Now this is a juxtaposed against Yahweh Shua, who was a sweet savor, sweet fragrance, and sweet odor to Yahweh. Juxtaposed with him down on the fig tree, down at the bottom of the Mount of Olives. Yahweh Shua is at the middle top part of Mount of Olives, being offered up as a sweet aroma. Then at the bottom is his accuser, stank and rank. And then he rotted out and his bowels burst open. How is this new wine and old wineskins? Yahweh Shua is the new wine, and Yehuda was the old wineskins. He still wanted to stick to the Moshe 1.0, the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, the 666 commandments, in his receiving of Yahweh Shua. Though he believed in him, he wanted to put in a cement box, which was sink you to the bottom of your death. So he burst open with that new wine in his old wineskins. So you become an ant and show all these ants with all. Now the thing about becoming an ant, you still retain all of your human knowledge. So Yahweh Shua, when he came down here, he still retained his eternality. He still retained his omniscience, which is all knowledge. He didn't lose that to become an ant. Then what good is it? He can stay right where he is. He's gonna be like us. He was like us physically, but still maintained that spirit and knowledge. So you becoming an ant, you tell all these ants, listen, get that queen, get out of here. I'm gonna show you where to go, because in 3 months y'all gonna be paved over. If those ants don't want to believe, they want to say, hey, my daddy lived here, his daddy, and all generations, we did fine here. All people look at these big people up here, and they sit on this bench, and they drop crumbs for us. We are bountiful here. There's this big monstrosity up here, and crumbs fall from there. There's people sitting on the bench eating their sandwiches. We ain't leaving this spot. They are going to their doom. They're going to be paved over. Those who heed the new understanding and just in faith, they are going to leave and go 100 yards over and continue to live. So this is what I'm trying to do here by Yahweh's grace. Please help me to share this with my Hebrews and Shebrews sisters and brothers. This new understanding of the law. Every time I get a few new followers, they drop off because they think the brother is teaching lawlessness. No, this is lawfulness. It's just correct application of it. Yahweh Shua came down here to show us how to do this thing. Now for today's lesson, Nashim Sharote, which means ministering women. Cue up number 3, my man.
Now it came to pass afterward that he went through every city and village preaching and bringing the glad tidings of the kingdom of God. And the 12 were with him, and certain women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities. Mary called Magdalene, out of whom had come 7 demons, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others who provided for him from their substance. And when a great multitude had...
Wow. The Torah took time to mention these 3 particular women by name. We see here this is as Yahweh was going out in his ministry, how the women supported and maintained the ministry. We are supposed to support the ministries that we are in. Now, you're not supposed to just go there and receive all the good preaching you get and receive all this knowledge that's good for your soul, that leads you to eternal life, and not support the ministry in some kind of way. And these women supported the ministry. And Yahweh, like a strong man entering into a man's house, he went down deep and took out even someone from Herod's household. Remember, that whole dynasty, it tried to kill Yahweh when he was born. He had all the men of Israel, all the boys 2 years old and down, killed. And now, here we all, this is not the same Herod, but it's in the same dynasty. Yahweh even got one of the women in that family out to support him. She believed in him. And you got, they call this Mary Magdalene because Miriam is the most popular Hebrew female name. And the name means bitterness, beloved. Bitterness and beloved, or kind of like depressed and beloved. And this name is a beautiful name though, because it speaks to really introspection. This bitterness comes from the way this world is. But she's also beloved. We know that Yahweh's mom's name was Miriam. So we got Yahweh's mom had this very name. And yes, she was bitter about the things going on in this world, but she was so beloved that Yahweh chose her to come through. And he also had Joanna. Joanna means Yah is gracious. And Susanna, which means lily. You know, the thing about, did you name your daughter? Did your wife name your daughter?
Yeah, she did.
She named them? Okay. So Chris's wife named his daughter. And what's her name? Gianna. Okay. Oh,
Noel
is the older one.
Yeah, oldest daughter. Yeah.
Okay, and Gianna. Okay. So we know that in the Torah, most of the time, you hear the women name the children. All throughout the Bible, even in the New Testament, the women name the children. But sometimes the men do name the children. I think a lot of times that the men might name, if they do, usually the men, they get out of that. That's not, y'all, that's you carry that thing and you going to throw all that, you go ahead and name. The women come out there sweating and everything. Sometimes they need to make them wait a while before they name these children. But I think a lot of times, looking at some of these names, looking at these names, sometimes the father might look at his little precious little doll and name her. Like Lily. It's Lily. There's another one, Star. I'm going to go through this. Actually, what I did was, because this is so touching, just for a handful of women in the Bible, and I'm going to talk about them. Today's is Nashim Sharote, ministering women who ministered to Yahweh and his 12 disciples. They made everything work, particularly when you got Judas, who was stealing the money. Judas was doing some kind of shady stuff. It was good to have those women there. So the men always knew they had something to eat. They always knew they had a place to stay. They always knew things were prepped up for them to do what they do. Women make us better. Hallelujah. But look at some of these women. Elizabeth, that was Yahweh's aunt. She bore John the Baptist, and it means El has sworn. My mighty one has sworn. And that is a beautiful name. Yahweh says he swears to himself because there's no one higher to swear to. He swears to himself that he will keep this covenant. We know Sarah means princess. Her father probably named her, that's my little princess. He said, I got this one. I gave you 7 sons. You name all of them. He named her princess. Rebecca, it means bind or captivate. Her father probably was captivated by her. She certainly did bind up Abraham's servant. He saw her and she watered all those camels. He was captivated by this. He said, that is going to be Yishak's wife. And it was. How about Raquel? Means you. Little you. A little you, little doe. I can see a father naming his daughter you. You know, just my little dove, my little doe. That's just a beautiful name for a delicate person. Matter of fact, Leah means delicate. Leah, delicate, weary. Tamar means palm tree. And we know, and first of all, we know that Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah, these are our pillar women, where all of Israel comes from. All right, so we all come from them. But here's what I love. This is when Yahweh takes detours and all that kind of stuff. He gets somebody like Tamar. Her name means palm tree. Tamar, who had to trick her father-in-law into sleeping with her. Hey, you'll say that's rotten dirty, but you know what? That's part of the line of where the Mashiach came through. She's part of the line of Mashiach. Look up the narrative in Matthew and Luke, the two books. She's in both of them, Matthew and Luke. And so we know how that story goes with you, because Judah was doing her dirty. Judah, and here he is, the main man, Judah, trying to get a piece. Thought she dressed herself up as a woman on the streets. He over there going inside trying to get a shot, get a piece, and ended up being with his own daughter-in-law. So if he was being so righteous, and then he did say he was righteous and found out that he was a lie because she produced the emblems of his payment, which is that covenant stick. That covenant, I taught you that was deep, because that's the same stick that Dawid planted in the ground, and then we end up worshiping, and then and putting all kinds of jewels and coverings on it, and then King Hezekiah took all that stuff off. They call it Nehushtan. And then when Hezekiah took all the jewels off of it, it grew into the almond tree on the Mount of Olives that Yahweh Shua died from. Judah gave that up for some booty. So he refused to give her his third son to have children with, after the first two sons were evil and wicked against her. And they would spread their seed on the ground instead of putting it in her. They didn't want to have any children by her. So she got it anyway. So that's a powerful story. Rahab, her name means blusterer or pride. Not in a bad way. Just that she knew she was bigger than what she was. She knew Yahweh had her there for something deeper. These two women are not Hebrew women, Tamar and Rahab. Rahab, how many women of the night do you know? There's plenty of women, prostitutes, who support their children. They're doing it because they support. But this woman supported the whole family. Her own mother and father lived under her work. Rahab, read the narrative. How many you got a prostitute who your father is living on you? I mean, come on. So Rahab knew she was bigger than what she was doing, and she was. Because once again, the line of the Messiah comes through her. Ruth, her name means compassionate. Another non-Hebrew woman who's in the line of the Messiah, of the Mashiach. Ruth, very compassionate she was to Naomi. How about some women are so powerful they don't even have their name, but we just know what they did. Manoah's wife. Manoah's wife is the one that birthed Samson, one of the first great judges of Israel. And we know that, and throughout the narrative, it continues to refer to her as Manoah's wife. So righteous is she that the angel, the Malach, did not go to Manoah for the prophecy. He went to the woman and gave her the prophecy of her birthing Samson. He never spoke to Manoah. So that tells you how righteous she was, that the Malach would bypass the husband and go to the wife. So she must have been special. Deborah, her name means bee. I can see a father name his, oh, that's my little bee. We know how important the bees are. They say if you take the bees, if you kill all the bees, the world would all eventually die. Because the bees are so important to the life food chain of the entire world. They keep the whole world alive. The bee, which to this day they can't even tell you how the bee can even fly. But Deborah, the only woman to lead Israel in battle. A woman. Because the men were too weak, too nimble-kneed to fight. And it took a woman to lead them, to give them strength. How about Yael? Her name means Yah is El. She was like Deborah's sidekick. And she's the one that killed Sisera. You know how a woman knows her strength. She knows how to woo a man with her curves. Women got all those curves, and she know us men ain't got no breaks. See, you think I don't know no rap? He think I don't know no rap songs.
I know you do. You're right.
Women got all those curves, and we ain't got no breaks. And so Sisera went to her tent. She said, "Oh, all right." He asked for some water as he was running away from Deborah, and us fighting them. And she said, "Hey, I'll give you better than water. I'll give you milk. Lay here on my bed and take a little sleep." That's he knew he woke up dead. She put an awl right through his temple, killed him. That was Yael. Yahweh is my mighty one. Asenath. That's Dinah's daughter. When Dinah was raped by Shechem, and Asenath is Dinah's daughter, who Yusuf, who you call Joseph, ended up marrying her. So we know that she was adopted by an Egyptian priest. Her name means belongs to her father. So she's adopted by an Egyptian priest who said, "Hey, she belongs to me." He knew this was a special woman, and she was. That's why he says she belongs to me. And she ended up marrying Yusuf. And how is this deep? This is deep. I can do a whole lesson on this one alone, because we see that Yusuf is the father of Ephraim and Manasseh, which is the diaspora, which is the 10 tribes that spread throughout the 4 corners of the earth. It is my understanding, my studying, my teaching is that Yehuda spread through all the 4 corners of what's so-called Africa. They're throughout all 4 corners of Africa, but Ephraim and Manasseh is all throughout the whole 4. We're part of we're the transatlantic slave trade. Now, doesn't mean that there's plenty of Yehuda. I may be Yehuda, but no one knows definitely what tribe they are from. But definitely, Ephraim and Manasseh is on the 4 corners of the earth through Yusuf and Asenath. How about Esther? Her name means star. Man, her father probably looked at her and said, "That's my little star." She saved Israel. We know what she did. She saved the whole nation. The Samaritan woman, don't know her name, but she's the first one to share the gospel. What you call the gospel? The Besorah. Yahushua met her at the well, speaking with her, and she believed that this is the Messiah. This is the Mashiach. Went back to her town, and so she's the first one ever on record to share the Besorah message. When Yahushua and his men came back, all the town came out to meet him and believed because of this woman, a Samaritan woman, a woman that we hate. We say is foul. We say the Samaritan women are so foul, it's like they on their period all the time. That's what the Hebrews say. But what woman was the first one to share the message? I'm telling you, we gotta grow up. But there are plenty of them. The women who Yahweh healed of her issue. And it was 2 women. One of them was had 12 years of issue. Another one was 18 years of a blood issue. The woman who loved him so much, and she was another harlot. She anointed his feet with her tears and spent a whole years of her wages anointing his feet. All the men sitting there didn't do none of that. She kissed his feet, or she oiled his feet. She just anointed him. I mean, how about Abigail? Her name means my father's joy. So she kept David from killing her husband Nabal, which means fool. Nabal and all his men. David was going to do it in anger, which was a sin. She kept him from doing that. Bathsheba, we know David dipped out and had her, and but her name means daughter of the promise, daughter of the oath, daughter of the covenant. So yes, he was supposed to have her, but not like he did. Just like Jacob was not supposed to deceive his father to get the blessing, David was not supposed to sleep with Bathsheba. King Solomon came out of Bathsheba, and once again, that's part of the line of the Messiah. So you want to put down these women. Zipporah, her name means bird. I can imagine her dad saying, "That's my little bird." This woman's got to be one of the most righteous women in the history of the world. This is Moshe's wife. Where do you hear anything about her? Talking about a quiet woman. Us men love to have a quiet wife. Sit down somewhere and just be quiet. Sometimes we say they talk too much. Zipporah just was quiet in the background with Moshe out there leading the people. Now, how powerful is this woman? The only woman ever that we see in the record to circumcise her son. Can you imagine that? Moshe's so busy trying to lead the people and do what he's supposed to do, not doing what he's other things he's supposed to do, like circumcise his son on the 8th day. And he didn't do it, and his wife saved his life. Here's the lawgiver that Hebrews, new Hebrews waking up want to keep all these commandments from Moses. And yet here he is, got to go and get the people and be the lawgiver, and don't even keep one of the main laws about circumcising your son. His wife saved his skin. She saved his life. The angel was going to kill him. You wouldn't have had no Moses was Zipporah. Told Yah. And then Nitzavit. Oh, I might one day have to do a whole lesson just on Nitzavit, David's mother. And I'm going to give a little bit of that in one of our 3 types today. I got to make sure I don't run out of time. I'm going to give you 3 types to have you women just realize that you are loved. And it's not like you say the Old Testament puts down women. No, here I am giving you all these women who are in the line of Messiah who men put down and turned aside. You're going to be lifted up today. But Nitzavit was put down and put to the side, but she's the one that birthed David. How about Naaman's wife's slave girl? Naaman, who's not a Hebrew. Here they are, they done killed her parents and raided her town and took this little slave girl and made her work for them. Yet she still told them about Elisha who can heal Naaman's leprosy. It's a little 12-year-old girl. Naaman, who's not even Hebrew. And Elisha heals this man of his leprosy, all from the word of this little slave girl. Hannah, her name means favor and grace. That's Samuel's mother. Samuel, one of the greatest priests of all time. His mother. And of course, Mother Hawa, the mother of all living, Mother Eve. Man, I tell you. So we see women. I mean, it's a woman that kept Isaac from blessing Esau. Isaac's wife kept him from blessing. If it wasn't for his wife, he would have gave the blessing that belongs to us to Esau. Yeah, she tricked him. Her and Jacob tricked him. But he was going to give the blessing to the wrong man, his wrong son. You know, it was a woman who let David know that, hey, your son's getting ready to take the kingdom. He's already been coronated as king. She said, hey, it's supposed to be Shlomo, Solomon. So David had to come there and take care of business. You know, as one woman, I was reading about her, she's so, they didn't give her name, just said she's a wise woman. She's kept Joab from destroying a whole town. He was after he was after one of the men who went against David, who tried to kill David. He was going to destroy a whole town. This wise woman said, hey, listen, don't bring that blood in here. You stay right there. I'm going to have that man's head thrown over the wall right at your feet. Called a wise woman. He stayed there. Boom, that man's head was chopped off and thrown right over the wall at his feet. Didn't have to go into the town to destroy the whole town, which Joab would have done. See how his men do? We're like a bull in this china shop. But a woman delicate, she can get through that whole. She can cook you breakfast and lunch and dinner at china shop, not like over one teacup. You go in there just with your muddy feet and doing yard work and just go into the foyer and knock over 5 plates. We are like, we need a woman to smooth us out. So we know that, and we know that the promise is that it is the woman's seed who crushes the serpent's head, not the man's seed. Yahweh says the woman, her heel will be bruised, but she will crush the serpent's head. Kill him. The woman's seed, not my seed, not your seed, not the man's seed. Oh, you Hebrews, humble yourselves. You know, I keep telling you to read the book of Hosea, because the whole thing is about how much Yahweh loves the woman. How Hosea's wife, who played the whoredom, for years, he had to keep going out there and bring her back home. Playing the harlotry, playing the whore again, go out there and bring her back. And that's what Yahweh, he was a type of Yahweh Shua. Yahweh Shua is the antitype of Hosea. Let's get into this, man. Let's go to the 4th one, my man.
If any man takes a wife and goes into her, and detests her, and charges her with shameful conduct, and brings a bad name on her, and says, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found she was not a virgin, then the father and mother of the young woman shall take and bring out the evidence of the young woman's virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. And the young woman's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he detests her. Now he has charged her with shameful conduct, saying, I found your daughter was not a virgin. And yet these are the evidences of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. Then the elders of that city shall take that man and punish him. And they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought a bad name on a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife. He cannot divorce her all his days. But if the thing is true, and evidences of virginity are not found for the young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done a disgraceful thing in Israel, to play the harlot in her father's house. So you shall put away the evil from among you.
I know a lot of us daddies are glad we are not living by the blood and stone commandments today. Don't you? You better love this man for taking you out of this covenant. What this is saying, well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I've done it already. I want to spend more time on the next two. Is that if on the wedding night, that woman better be a virgin. And if she is a virgin, it should be evidence of it on the sheets. And if the man's just trying to get over, because us men try to get over, and says she wasn't a virgin because he really didn't like it, didn't like her, or he changed his mind, or didn't like it, and he says, "Hey, she wasn't a virgin." Then he can get out of it, and they stone her, and he just going on, and he lied. So if the proof is there, you gotta take it to the judges. Hey, my daughter was not hoeing around. Look here, there's proof right here. So if the proof is there, she's innocent, and then he cannot leave her. But if she is guilty, she gets stoned. How is this a type of Yahweh Shua? The last two, I just said it though, I hope you support, share Yahweh for Hebrews Christians, because I'm giving you stuff you're not getting anywhere else. The last two acts of Yahweh Shua to complete all of the antitypes was this one and then the one after that. When he resurrected, disrobed, because hey, when you're perfect, what you wearing clothes for? You haven't sinned. Do you see any animals in nature who wearing clothes? They ain't never do nothing wrong. We sinned. Adam and Mother Hawa was naked in the garden. They ain't do no sinning. They didn't put on clothes after they sinned. Yahushua resurrected perfect. Disrobed. But the narrative says, go ahead and read it, John 24-7. We already did that. He took time before he exited the door to fold the shroud that was on his face and put it next to the entranceway so it can be examined like we just read here. The judges got examined. Who examined it? Peter and John. They came in and examined it and saw it, and it was bloody. That means Yahweh Shua was innocent. And then the last act of the 666 acts that he did, because even the record says that he did so much that you can't put it all in the Bible, was he offered himself as the wave sheaf offering. Those are the last two acts of Yahweh that he had to complete to show everything that he was who he said he was, the Son of Yahweh. That's beautiful and that's powerful. And that's deep. So, I can do, but we did that, but yeah, go on to the next one.
If a young woman who is a virgin is betrothed to a husband, and a man finds her in the city and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and you shall stone them to death with stones.
Pause. Okay, a pause for two reasons. Number one, first of all, I want to give you the citation for the one just read. That was in Numbers 5:11 through 31. That's the ordinance of the adulterous wife, the one I gave before. Numbers 5:11 through 31, ordinance of the adulterous wife. Thank Yahweh that he fulfilled that. We ain't got to deal with that. Now we're reading from Deuteronomy 22:13 to 21. I just pulled this one up yesterday morning. And right now and this stoning thing. Again, I want to give you a reference. It's called The Secrets of Golgotha by Ernest L. Martin. The Secrets of Golgotha by Ernest L. Martin, to support what I've been teaching, that Yahweh Shua also was stoned. Remember, he was declared innocent by Rome. They said he did nothing wrong. He was declared innocent several times. So they said, judge him by your law. Well, they said, we can't do that. We under y'all. All right, string him up. But I'm trying to release Barabbas. We didn't want. So our law was stoning. So Yahweh Shua cleaned that up too. He fulfilled that by being stoned. Secrets of Golgotha, Ernest L. Martin. So now we got a second stoning incident here with a woman being raped in the city. Go ahead and finish it up, my brother.
The young woman, because she did not cry out in the city, and the man, because he humbled his neighbor's wife. So you shall put away the evil from among you.
Again, Deuteronomy 22:13 to 21 was that narrative. How is that significant? Now, what it's saying is this. Read it for yourself. Read the whole narrative. I can't do it all here. But if the woman was raped in the field, out in the country, it's understood if she doesn't really. The record says she cried out, but nobody heard her. So he got away with it. He can go ahead and leave and do. Men, that's why we have not delivered any deliverance. Us men have failed Yahweh, and we failed to redeem our bride. We did. Yahweh says in the book of Adam and Eve, Adam, you cannot save Eve. Only I can. And it proves it right here. So man can rape a woman out in the field and get away with it and just go. But this says if she's raped in a city and she stays quiet like and enjoys and goes on with it, she gets stoned. They both get stoned. But she does because she didn't cry out for help. You're in a city. Somebody's going to hear you say, help! Somebody's getting it here. The Bible, the Torah says right here, is no excuse for a woman in the city being raped and nobody knowing about it. And if she stays quiet about it and go in and get it and go in along with it, along with the man, she gets stoned. Once again, this is a type of Yahweh Shua. Yahweh Shua did cry out. When did he cry out? Azab Tani. Yekti Yahu Elio Shalu Lama Yashi Shalu Lama. My mighty one, why have you forsaken me? Why have you forsaken the unity of Yah? Your KJV has it erroneously in Greek and Latin, saying, my God, why? No, but Yahweh Shua did cry out. He cried out to his father, why are you letting them do this to me? I'm innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. That was the greatest yell in the history of the world. He cried out right at the end of the third hour of darkness. And after that cry, then the light came up and he gave up his ruach. Nobody can kill eternity. He gave it up to his father. And say, here, you take it and judge me. Because I ain't do nothing wrong. I did everything you told me to do. I spoke only what you told me to speak. And he cried out to Yahweh. And he gave up his ruach. With the death of his endless life. You heard what I said? The death of his endless life. He cried out. He was innocent. This right here is a type of Yahweh. And he is the antitype, and he fulfilled that by crying out. Hallelujah, total Yah. Don't you think you need to support, subscribe, and like this ministry? Share it. Go to the next one, my brother.
Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, if any man's wife goes astray, and behaves unfaithfully toward him, and a man lies with her carnally, and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught, if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest.
Pause. All right, let me get you up to speed on what's going on here. What the record is saying, what the Torah is saying, and this is beautiful. I spent a whole lot of pages in my book, the second book. I hope you get Yahweh Shua, I mean original words, original truth. And I break this down. It takes a whole hour to really break this down. I break it down in my book, and I broke it down here. It's saying this: if a husband, the first one, the other one was a new bride. This is when you already been married for a while and you've had children and everything. You've been married 20 years, whatever. But the husband thinks, you know what? She's been cheating. She's cheating on me. And there's no way you can prove it. They didn't have Jerry Springer back then. They didn't have no DNA where you get on the stage and say, you are the father, or whatever. They didn't have that back then. But Yahweh did have his own Jerry Springer. He had this right here. This is Deuteronomy 22. And I think I gave the wrong notation. This is actually Deuteronomy 22, 13 to 21. The one where the woman was raped and cried was Deuteronomy 22, 23 and 24. Okay? The one before this one, okay? That narrative is Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 23 and 24. Okay? That's for the woman who cries out, who doesn't cry out in the city. That means she went along with it. All right? But the one we're doing now is Deuteronomy 22, verses 13 to 21. And what it's saying is, so the man thinks she's cheating on him. But how you going to prove it? She going to say, I ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing. And it also gives two scenarios. One where she did cheat. Another one where she didn't cheat. This is going to be beautiful. And it's also going to be deep. This is how Dawid ended up being born through this. So go ahead, brother. Continue.
He shall bring the offering required for her, 1/10 of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil on it, and put no frankincense on it, because it is a grain offering of jealousy, an offering for remembering, for bringing iniquity to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near, and set her before the Lord. The priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle, and put it into the water. Then the priest shall stand the woman before the Lord, uncover the woman's head, and put the offering for remembering in her hands, which is the grain offering of jealousy. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that brings a curse. And the priest shall put her under oath, and say to the woman, if no man has lain with you, and if you have not gone astray to uncleanness while under your husband's authority, be free from this bitter water that brings a curse. But if you have gone astray while under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has
You had to
lain
show her
with
how to
you,
do those last ones, huh?
then the priest shall put
She don't know how to
the
do
woman
them.
under the oath of the curse.
You gonna show her how to do it? The
And he
last
shall
two?
say to the woman,
She's not coming in.
the Lord
She's here.
make you a curse.
Oh, she's not
and
coming in.
oath
Oh,
among
I
your
see.
people,
Okay.
when the Lord makes your thigh rot and your belly swell. And may this water that causes the curse go into your stomach, and make your belly swell, and your thigh rot. Then the woman shall say, Amen, so be it. Then the priest shall write these curses in a book, and he shall scrape them off into the bitter water. And he shall make the woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and the water that brings the curse shall enter her, to become bitter. Then the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy from the woman's hand, shall wave the offering before the Lord, and bring it to the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the offering as its memorial portion, burn it on the altar, and afterward make the woman drink the water. When he has made her drink the water, then it shall be, if she has defiled herself and behaved unfaithfully toward her husband, that the water that brings a curse will enter her, and become bitter, and her belly will swell, her thigh will rot, and the woman will become a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself, and is clean, then she shall be free, and may conceive children. This is the law of jealousy, when a wife, while under her husband's authority, goes astray and defiles herself, or when the spirit of jealousy comes upon a man, and he becomes jealous of his wife. Then he shall stand the woman before the Lord, and the priest shall execute all this law upon her. Then the man shall be free from iniquity, but that
You can stop it. You can
shall
stop
bear
it.
her guilt.
You can stop. Wow, I'm not going to have time to give justice. I'm going to do it next week. But what this is saying is this is empirical proof whether she did something or not. Empirically, did she cheat on her husband or not when they go through this ritual? This is the ritual that Yahweh was going to initiate in the temple when those men brought that woman caught in an act of adultery. And that's deep too, because all those men were the ones who did, including the husband. So, but they recognized that he was getting ready to initiate this act by starting to write down the name of Yahweh in the temple floor, which is part of that, because then you got to make a drink out of that and make the woman drink that. Yahweh sure fulfilled all of this on the tree. Everything you just heard was fulfilled by Yahweh on the tree. I got it verse by verse in my second book. You can contact me. I'll give it to you for free. That he completed all of this. I don't have time to I'm going to go back to this. But Peter says in 1 Peter 3:7, we need to support our wives who are the weaker vessel. I'm not even going to have you go to it because we run out of time. She is the weaker vessel. So we have to be better men. We have to be better men. And Yahweh was good, man. Go to next to the last one. Next to the last one.
John.
Yeah, John 19.
By, he said to his mother, "Behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her to his own home. After this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled.
Wow. Here he is getting ready to die. He's still taking care of his mother. Yahweh has always been loving and gentle to the women. There was no food stamps back then, no checks coming out every month. He said he gave his mother to his, and he was the oldest, so it was his job to take care of his mother. John took care of his mother, and he said, that's your son, and that's your mother. So until next week, Shalom Aleichem, peace be on you. We're going to go to Matthew 12, 22 to 30 next week, and we're going to review a little bit of that last narrative because that's beautiful. Todah. Pray for the Shalom of Yisrael.
Sing praises.